right, 10 games in 10 minutes. Can I do it? We're going to try. I've been semi-successful trying to do this the last couple of weeks, so we're going to give it a try again today. I've got 10 games. I'm going to give you a preview and a prediction of all 10 games in under 10 minutes. Let's go. All right, up first, Michigan on the road at Maryland, 12 o'clock on Fox. Michigan is a 19-point favorite in this one. This game is stuck between Michigan's two biggest games of the year. Michigan played on the road at Penn State last week, so back-to-back road games, now having to go on the road to Maryland. And, of course, next week they have the big home game against Ohio State. So a classic trap game situation here from Michigan. I do not think Michigan will lose. Maryland's been really bad. They started off 4-0, 5-0, something like that. But then I think they've lost 4 of their last 5, just completely fallen off. I am, however, going to take Maryland in the 19 points. Maybe they keep it a little bit closer than that, although I do think Michigan, minus Jim Harbaugh, who is suspended for this game, will win the game. Michigan had another coach fired today, by the way. So now we've got a staffer, Connor Stallions, gone. A position coach, just fired today, gone. A booster has now been tied to the payments to Connor Stallions. But I'm sure no one else knew, though. I'm sure that's it. I'm sure we won't find out anything else about this massive cheating scandal, but I'm behind time here. Give me Maryland plus 19, but Michigan wins the game. Utah on the road at Arizona, 2:30 on the Pac-12 network. 2 second-tier teams, at least this season, in the Pac-12. And I use the term second-tier not as an insult, but as a compliment. These are both good teams. They're not great. In other words, they're not Oregon or Washington. They're in the tier below that. Your Southern Cal, Utah, Oregon State. Oregon State's got a chance to prove they're in the top tier. But anyway, Arizona's like 7-3 or something this year. One of the biggest turnarounds in all of college football over the last couple of years. Utah, minus Cam Rising all season, has never really been able to get the offense going. Arizona's a 1-point home favorite. I don't think that's nearly enough. I've been impressed with Arizona this year. Give me the home team, Arizona. Lay the point. We're about 5 seconds ahead of schedule. North Carolina on the road at a very disappointing Clemson team, at least in terms of the season as a whole. Now, they've had a couple of wins lately that give them reasons to hold their head up high, but overall, this season is going to be looked upon as a massive disappointment for Clemson. And you might be able to say the same thing about North Carolina. Heisman contending quarterback at North Carolina comes back this year in Drake May. And while he has looked really good at times, North Carolina as a whole, I don't think has met expectations overall. It's a home game for Clemson. They're tough to beat there. They're favored by 7.5 points. I actually like the way Clemson has looked the last couple of weeks. I'm going to take Clemson not only to win the game, but win by more than the 7.5 points, and we're ahead of schedule now. UCLA on the road at Southern Cal. Speaking of disappointment, with Southern Cal, Caleb Williams, the returning Heisman Trophy winner from last year, comes back again for Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal. It just hasn't worked out. And again, the story for Southern Cal has been defense, or lack thereof. They don't have one. They finally moved on from Alex Grinch, firing him a couple of weeks ago. We'll see what direction they go in terms of defensive coordinator for next year. But Caleb Williams coming up on the end of his time here in college. A couple more games left for him before he heads off to the NFL draft. UCLA, on the other hand, a lot of smoke right now about Chip Kelly possibly being fired at the end of the season. And I have to admit, I don't understand why. I don't get that. I don't know why Chip Kelly would be fired by UCLA. I don't know who UCLA thinks they could possibly get that would be any better. Sorry, I had just something there. That would be any better than Chip Kelly. I think it would be a huge mistake for them to fire Chip Kelly. I actually think UCLA can win this game. They're a pretty good running team. Southern Cal has been exposed on the ground multiple times. I'm going to take UCLA in the 6.5 points. They're a 6.5 point underdog. I'll take UCLA and the points, and I'm way behind now. Oregon on the road at Arizona State. Arizona State, as good as Arizona has been, Arizona State is still kind of stuck at the bottom there. I don't think Oregon will have any problem going on the road and winning this game at Arizona State. There have been several instances in the past of playoff potential Pac-12 teams going on the road late in the season and losing to bad Arizona or Arizona State teams. I do not think that will be the case this year with Oregon, a super senior quarterback in Bo Nix with a ton of experience, what appears to be a really good head coach in Dan Lanning. I think Oregon will win the game. They're a 24-point favorite, though. I'm actually going to take Arizona State in the points. I think Oregon can I think Arizona State can keep it a little bit closer than that. Oregon wins by 3 touchdowns. Kansas State on the road at Kansas, an in-state rivalry here that for no particular reason at all is played this week instead of next week when the rest of the in-state rivalries are played, or the majority of them. Same thing for USC and UCLA. But Kansas State on the road at Kansas, and this is another one I don't really understand. Kansas is getting 10 points at home. Now, I know Kansas State has been a good team, but I really like Kansas too. I just don't see either team winning this game by 10 points. For that reason, I'm going to take Kansas in the 10. I think this might be one of the best games of the day on Saturday. Kansas State could end up winning the game, but I'm going to take Kansas in those 10 points and hope that they can keep it closer. Florida on the road at Missouri, and Missouri's an 11-point favorite. Missouri's coming off a complete domination of Tennessee at home last week. Florida, of course, lost again on the road, this time to LSU last weekend. Florida has currently lost 3 games in a row: Georgia, Arkansas, and LSU. They're on the road at Missouri this week as an 11-point underdog, and next week they have to play in-state rival Florida State. It looks as though Florida is headed towards ending the season on a 5-game losing streak. I definitely think it goes to 4. I think Missouri wins. I think Missouri is just a much better team, and honestly much better coached team than Florida is. I'm going to take Missouri to win the game. Not only that, I'm going to take Missouri to win by more than the 11. Give me Missouri minus 11. Kentucky on the road at South Carolina. Kentucky's a 2-point road favorite in this one. South Carolina may be one of the most disappointing teams in the SEC this season. There's some pretty strong candidates. I'm disappointed in Vandy, but that's a different story for a different day for me. But anyway, South Carolina has just had a terrible season, especially considering how much Shane Beamer and South Carolina overachieved over each of the last 2 seasons. Massive underachievement this year. They get Spencer Rattler back at QB this season, but other than that, nothing has gone South Carolina's way. Just an absolute disaster of a season. Kentucky, I think, has had a disappointing season as well. They brought Devin Leary in from the transfer portal, a quarterback out of NC State, and he never really fit in. It never took off. It never clicked. It never worked, whatever you want to say. He's had really one good game this season, and that was against Tennessee about a month ago. Other than that, he has been a massive disappointment. That being said, Kentucky's a 2-point underdog on the road at South Carolina. Again, I think Kentucky is a better team, and I think they're a better coached team. I'm going to take Kentucky on the road in a tough place to play at night, Williams-Brice Stadium, to get the win over South Carolina. Texas on the road at Iowa State. This might be one of the games of the day. Well, this is one of the games of the day. Texas, of course, still alive for the playoff hunt with just a 1 loss to Oklahoma, so they're sitting at 9-1. Appear headed towards a Big 12 title game appearance and maybe even a Big 12 title and a spot in the playoffs, but they're taking on a pretty good Iowa State team who can be really, really tough to play at home. Iowa State's still alive in the Big 12 as well, so we could end up seeing this game twice. The Big 12 is very confusing. You try to look at the Big 12 and who the second team would be other than Texas, and you get a kind of a log jam of teams there stuck around the 2 conference loss mark. Iowa State's getting 7.5 at home. I would not be shocked if Iowa State won this game. I'm expecting Texas to win. Would not be shocked if Iowa State won. But since it's at home, and it wouldn't shock me if they won the game, I am going to take Iowa State in the 7.5 points. Texas has won each of its last 2 games by a total of 3 points against not very good teams. They beat Kansas State by 3. They beat, was it TCU? They beat last week by 3. TCU came storming back in the fourth quarter, scored 20 points on Texas in the fourth quarter, almost stole that game away from them. Texas is without Jonathan Brooks. He's tore his ACL, but Quinn Ewers is back. They still got that group of wide receivers, and the defense is going to have to play well here on the road at Iowa State. I expect Texas to win. Wouldn't be shocked if they lose. I'm going to take Iowa State in the 7.5 points. And then the last one, and we're looks like we're going to make it on time today, Syracuse on the road at Georgia Tech. Neither one of these teams is great, but Georgia Tech is sitting on 5 wins. They need one more win to become bowl eligible, which would be a big deal for Georgia Tech. This is a team that hasn't made a bowl game in quite some time. First-year head coach Brent Key. He was named interim coach last year for the last 3 or 4 games and then named permanent coach in the offseason. So his first full year as coach there at Georgia Tech, Brent Key, and he's got them 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Georgia Tech is favored by 6.5 at home. Not only does Georgia Tech win the game, I think they win and cover. I think they win by more than 6.5. With that being said, though, I do hope Georgia Tech loses and stays at 5 wins. Georgia Tech plays Georgia next week. And nothing would make me happier as a Georgia fan than to be the team that keeps Georgia Tech out of a bowl game. I would love to be the team that hands Georgia Tech their 7th loss, preventing them from making a bowl. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Georgia Tech wins the game, improves to 6-5 before next week falling to Georgia and ending the regular season 6-6, but with some bowl eligibility. And there you go, about 10, 15 seconds ahead of time. 10 games in 10 minutes. Let me know what you think down below. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Have a good morning.